The toughest part of applying the cost approach to value for any type of property is estimating the accrued depreciation. Depreciation is a loss in value from any cause, and accrued depreciation is that total depreciation due to all causes from the time of construction until the date of the appraisal. Just like with owner-occupied single-family residential homes, we have three categories of depreciation. Physical deterioration, which is due to ordinary wear and tear and the action of the elements. Functional obsolescence is due to perhaps a layout that is incorrect or is clunky. It might be due to certain components that are outdated or outmoded. They are not up to the current market standard of those items. And finally, external obsolescence would be a loss due to items or things that are outside of the property itself. In terms of our methods of computing accrued depreciation, just like with owner-occupied single-family homes, we can use market extraction, the age-life method, and the observed condition method. Market extraction, also known as the market comparison or sales comparison method, we are going to use comparable properties to our subject to try to come up with an estimate of accrued depreciation. So our method will be very similar to what we undertook in the past, the only difference being that we are using a different type of property. Here we're using commercial properties, properties that produce income. So here are two examples of using market extraction to compute the accrued depreciation on a property. Our next method is the age-life method, and this method assumes that depreciation occurs at an even rate throughout the life of the structure, and it's important that we be able to estimate the effective age on that improvement as well as its total economic life. So again, the process is exactly the same as we undertook in the past, but now we're using a different type of property. We're going to use our formula where accrued depreciation is equal to effective age divided by total economic life, and that multiplied times the cost new of the improvement. One thing to note here is that total economic life is equal to not just the effective age of the property, but it's equal to the effective age plus the remaining economic life. And that's going to come into play with some of our problems that we're going to use as an example. We know that there's a variation of this method where at least we could calculate or we could set aside the curable items of depreciation, and anything that is a curable item would be something that would be easily remedied and the costs of which would at least add that much value once they would be repaired, would at least add that much value to the overall property. So we can find the accrued depreciation, at least this is the incurable part, where we take the cost new of the property, subtract out any curable items, multiply that difference by effective age to total economic life. Here are three examples that I've worked for you using both the modified age-life method as well as the regular age-life method. And finally, the observed condition method. With this method, we do recognize the three forms of accrued depreciation: physical, functional, external. It recognizes that when it comes to physical and functional, we can break it down into both the curable part and the incurable part. Again, any form of accrued depreciation that's curable is probably relatively minor. But when it's incurable, it is a much more substantial financial undertaking, and it would not be easy to fix, and the cost of which would just overshadow any value that would be gained. External obsolescence, since this is a loss in value that occurs outside of the property, it's always incurable. So here is an example of the observed condition method, and it sort of incorporates some elements of the age-life method.